Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Riots, protests, civil unrest, and you. I don't know if tips and tricks is a good way to put it, but I don't really know another way to describe what we're going to talk about today. We talk about these kind of topics the right way, with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world firsthand experience. This might be a cross-pollination episode where I put it out on Alpha Male Podcast and Gunfighter Life, because a lot of people that aren't into guns may still be interested in this episode. If you want street cred, if you want that, go check the bio in the show notes. I'm not going to rehash that. Bio in the show notes, but real germane to today's episode, I have been L.A.P.D, and I have been a U.S. Marine, and I have dealt with riots, looting, civil unrest, both foreign and domestic. So, yeah, it's a real thing, and it was a real thing when I was a kid, but it seems to be even more frequent now. Why that is, socio-political, economic reasons, this is not the place to hash that out or figure out why. That's not the focus of today's episode. What is the focus is if you find yourself having to deal with them. So, I guess I should say, as an American, as somebody who's fought to defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, absolutely believe you or people with your opposing views, whatever side you're on, have the right to peaceably assemble. That's right in the First Amendment, right in there with the freedom of religion. That's not what we're talking about here today. Also, a good general rule in life is don't go to stupid places with stupid people and do stupid things. From the book of 1 Corinthians, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And from the book of Proverbs, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Proverbs 11, he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. One more and we'll move on. Do not associate with a man given to anger or with a hot-tempered man, for you will learn his ways and find a snare for yourself. Okay, so one of the big things I'm going to tell you is don't be there, right? There are certain techniques when you get punched in the head, when you get punched in the face. I've been punched in the head or face more times than I can remember. Maybe those things are connected. But there's a certain technique where it's going to hurt less if you're getting punched in the face. But the best way is move your head so it's not there when the punch is thrown. So, the same thing has to do with riots and looting and civil unrest. Maybe don't be there. Right? Then you will have nipped all this in the bud, right? You won't need, to dodge a Molotov cocktail if you're not there. You're not going to have to remember stop, drop, and roll when you're on fire with, gasoline and melted styrofoam if you weren't there in the first place. So, don't be there. Population density matters. but I want to live in the city so I can go to Starbucks and get my soy latte. And can I have cinnamon with that? Maybe that's not what's really important in life. But if you're there around a bunch of people, you kind of need a bunch of people to riot and have civil unrest. You know where they're not looting and rioting? Outer Mongolia, the Aleutian Islands, Galapagos, right? Maybe don't be where a ton of people. But a lot of people live in cities. You're probably not going to take that advice. If you're in cities generally, maybe don't be in the... If you're going to be in a city anyway, maybe don't be in the hot spots of the city. Maybe avoid it. Rule number 2, cardio. The odds of you having to use a gun or a fire extinguisher or a gallon of milk to get pepper spray out of your eyes or whatever it is, right? More likely is you're going to need good cardio. So have good cardio. That's just a good life skill in general. Probably not what you want to hear, but cardio is important. Can you run a couple of blocks without feeling like you're going to die? Can you climb over a fence without dying? Right? These are just life skills that you probably should have. But cardio. Talking about pepper spray, that goes both ways. If you're getting mobbed, swarmed, whatever, a larger than you would normally carry maybe thing of pepper spray in your vehicle or whatever, that may come in handy. It's less lethal. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I've had that stuff on me more times than I can remember. I'm generally not a big fan of it, but in this kind of scenario where you might have to deal with a crowd of people, maybe something to consider. I am a big fan of EDC in general, Bible or some Bible verses, gun, good fixed blade knife, a tourniquet, which we'll come back to, and the random other stuff you need for the more mundane, like a wallet, a cell phone. Right? I'm a big fan of EDC. I've done whole episodes on EDC, but that is like your baseline. There should be nothing special unless you want to up your EDC. Maybe start carrying the extended mags when there's rioting, looting, civil unrest. I don't know. This is not the episode for me to talk about, why almost every other modern gun is better than Glock. There's a whole other podcast for that. But just have an EDC, know how to use the things that you have. But in addition to that, like a larger can of pepper spray may be good to have. Now let's talk about having to deal with being sprayed, being gassed, of which I've had the displeasure of both, and things you can do. The number one thing you can do is just, again, exit the AO, get out of that area, and just suck it up, Buttercup. You get sprayed in the face with pepper spray, you get gassed, you just suck it up. Like, you're not gonna, unless you have some weird medical condition, you're not gonna die. It's gonna suck for a while. That's just life sometimes, just in a more acute, extreme version. Like, you just suck it up. You can still fight, you can still run, you can still arrest somebody, you can still articulate a sentence after you've been pepper sprayed, after you've been gassed, right? You can still think. So you just suck it up, Buttercup. Some other things you can do is cover your eyes, right? Getting pepper spray in your eyes is really bad. So cover your eyes with sunglasses or something like that. If you don't have a gas mask, if you don't carry one in your vehicle, I mean, what are you, Canadian? I don't know. But if you don't have a gas mask, maybe a wet cloth, a wet rag is better than nothing for that kind of stuff. So those little neck gaiters, those kind of things, better than nothing if you have to exit an area or go through an area that's being gassed or sprayed or whatever. So just some things there. You've been sprayed. Water doesn't do a whole lot unless you can take a long cold shower. If you can get somewhere with a long cold shower, yeah, that's kind of nice. Milk is nice, but I doubt you're carrying gallons of milk to these things, unless you were there to cause trouble in the first place. I don't think a gallon of milk is part of most people's EDC, but just be aware that it does work. I don't want to turn this into a gun episode, but the term riot gun, that's a 12-gauge shotgun. And it got the term riot gun for a reason. You do what you want with that information. I'm not telling you should or shouldn't have a 12-gauge in your vehicle, but, why would you not have a 12-gauge in your vehicle? I mean, come on. That's just kind of common sense. It's a multi-tool. Consider it a multi-tool for men, like a manly multi-tool, like a Leatherman on steroids. The 12-gauge shotgun can do so much. From regular, run-of-the-mill 9-pellet double-aught buck, it's slugs, less lethal, if you know how to do it, breaching, opening doors, things like that. So why would you not have a 12-gauge in your vehicle? But also, talking about opening stuff, bolt cutters, and not for anything nefarious, not for breaking into things. I know you could take a lot of the stuff I'm doing and use it for bad, but you can do that anyway. Bolt cutters for getting out of an area. If you're, trying to evade an area, bolt cutters may come in handy. And I'm not for destroying private property, but if it comes between that and you dying or being burnt alive or something like that, maybe use the bolt cutters and maybe go back later and pay the person back double. Say, I ruined this, here's a brand new chain, or here's twice as much as it's worth, or whatever. But bolt cutters, you don't even have to destroy it if you know how to pick locks and have lock picks and carry those generally on your EDC or in an EDC bag. Lock picking is just a good skill. And not for anything nefarious. How many times you locked yourself out of something and it was yours and you had every right to get in there, you just forgot the key or dropped the key or couldn't find the key. Like lock picking is just a good life skill. So you might want to think about that. Not in this scenario so much for getting into an area, but for getting out of an area. Another one, 4-wheel drive. Got a vehicle. I've done whole things on vehicle kit. This is not the hash out vehicle kit, but if you have a couple of vehicles and you have one that has 4-wheel drive and you think you might end up in one of these areas, maybe have the 4-wheel drive. Realize that things like traffic laws, those are secondary laws. They're not primary laws like God's immutable 10 commandments or like God's immutable laws of nature that only he can change, like gravity. Like the lines in a road, those are like suggestions on where you maybe could drive. They're not bound by the laws of physics. You can go over those lines, right? You can ride on the shoulder. You could maybe cross over a median and go another way. Not telling you to do that day to day, but between that happening and you dying, maybe that's the better course of action. So, and a lot of times 4-wheel drive will open avenues of egress that otherwise would be closed to you because, you have a Prius. So if you have a vehicle with 4-wheel drive, maybe drive that even if it costs you a little bit more in gas on days when this is a heightened possibility. Also, on that, keep your gas, this is just a life skill, but it certainly applies here. Keep your gas tank more than half full. When the city's on fire and you jump in your car and you realize the gas light is on and it was on when you drove in this morning, that's probably not the time to really need gas. Right? So keep your gas tank above half. That's just a good life skill. Do I do it 100% of the time? No, but I do it a lot of the time. I try and make that a habit. When my gas tank gets half or below half, before I go home, put gas in the tank. It's just a good thing to do. Again, an emergency is not the time to realize you need gas. Try and just pretend that the halfway mark is empty for you from now on. Just a good life skill, but especially here. Again, you don't want to, like you did a bunch of stuff and you were distracted that morning and you drove to work knowing you needed gas, but you just wanted to make it because you were late. Because you wanted to stop and get your fancy soy latte or whatever instead of getting gas. Keep your gas tank above half. It's just a good life skill in general. You never know when someone get hurt or something like that, and you don't have the time to get gas. So just keep it at more than half a tank. And 4-wheel drive. Texting. Now, you younger millennials and even younger, this is probably your default anyway. But any kind of mass emergency, generally phones will go down. Sometimes, not always, sometimes a text will go through and a call will not. So if your default is calling, maybe try and send a text. Just try and send it a bunch of times. Maybe it will go through. But it's more likely to go through than a phone call. So remember the text message. Again, these are individual episodes that you should probably look into more, and I've gone in a lot of detail. This is not going to turn into a bailout bag episode or a bug out bag episode or a get home bag episode. But maybe having a bag of some prepared items in your vehicle that just make common sense, having that in there. Any plan you have for getting out of an area should have a way to devolve into a man-portable plan. Meaning if your vehicle is out of action or you're stuck gridlocked in traffic or all the freeways are shut down or whatever, you get 3 flat tires, you should have a plan to get out of there on your Lamborghinis, with your boots, with your leather personnel carriers. which means you might want a bag. You might want a bag with just some basic stuff in there, right? So if you're like, I got a bug out bag, well, is it at home? Well, if it's at home and you're 30 miles away at work and the peanut butter and chocolate hits the fan, when you're at work, that bug out bag maybe as well be on the moon. Have it with you in your vehicle, right? So, yeah, have a bag. And this is not, whether to hash out what a bailout bag is, what a bug out bag is. Have a bag of common prepared items that you might need for that situation. And we've done episodes on that in the past. I'm not going to insult you. You probably know how to use a search engine. Another one, again, something you should probably have all the time is a medical kit. One of the most dangerous things you do in day-to-day life is driving. Vehicles should have a medical kit. The vehicles that you own should have a medical kit. And you should know how to use said medical kit. But stop the bleed, TCCC, basic stuff. Basic Red Cross first aid is not horrible. Like basic stuff. How to apply a tourniquet, how to apply a chest seal, how to give the Heimlich maneuver, how to do CPR. These are just basic life skills you should have anyway. But having kits like that in your vehicle, just standard, is fine. But I'm going to rehash it out here. That's important. Having good medical kit. And I mentioned EDCing a tourniquet. I think that's a good idea anyway. You can improvise tourniquets. I have had to improvise tourniquets, and it worked. But after that, I started EDCing a tourniquet, because having a dedicated tourniquet is better. Don't die or let somebody else die, right? A great Bible verse is, you shall not stand idly by while somebody takes the life of your neighbor. But being able to save a life, yours or somebody else's, one of the major causes, and I'm not going to go through the whole March algorithm, but one of the major causes of acute death is massive bleeding, massive hemorrhaging. So you might want to EDC a tourniquet day to day, but you especially might want to EDC a tourniquet. But especially if you're going to be in one of these areas, maybe have an EDC tourniquet. You can EDC another medical kit, a very small medical kit, an ankle kit, one of the small Blue Force gear kits. And I should say one of my go-tos, mainly to support them in other ways, is, Refuge Medical Bear Independent kits. They make good kits. You're not the only kits. North American Rescue makes good kits. Not some cheap Chinesian junk, but get a good kit, have a good kit. And at least, I say a bare minimum is have a tourniquet on you. But those are some tips and tricks, which is, I think, the best way I can think to put it, for looting, rioting, civil unrest. Again, the best medicine, maybe don't be there. So with that, guys, no tactical tip of the day, because it seems like, this whole thing was kind of tips. But I'll close with another tactical verse, another proverb. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners.
Breaking news from the stadium tonight as an anonymous fan foot the bill for 55,000 hot dogs, bringing that sweet tubed meat to everyone in attendance.
Free dogs! Yeah!
55,000 hot dogs? What does that even cost? While the identity of this Frankfurter philanthropist remains anonymous, their all-beefy generosity will go down in history.
The new Mega Millions. More to win means more to give. How you spend it is up to you. Yeah!
For game odds and details, visit sceducationlottery.com.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.